Hello, hello, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to Breakthrough. My name is Mark Anthony Peter, and joined with me is my co-host, as always, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean. How are you?
I'm just trying to get over the little bit of attempted torture in our ears that we happened just now.
Yes,
You know?
all the time, every single Monday.
Single Monday.
Every single Monday. Also, by the way, next time I'm going to watch Talking Point on a Monday so that I don't come in the same colored shirt as you.
Oh yes, yes. We're matching.
We're matching.
This was not planned.
It was, again.
You should have worn the black jacket.
People, you know what, not people, I am tired of wearing it.
Okay, but it's so much, it's so much easier though, I'm not gonna lie.
I was tired. I'm like, I'm not doing jacket today. I'm just gonna do shit.
Right, you just picked the wrong one.
I just picked the wrong one. I call this my accounting shit. But anyway.
What does that have to do with accounting?
I feel like, so my dad is an accountant, so I feel like accountants always wear like long sleeve blue shirts.
Wow, just long sleeve blue shirts are accounting.
Yeah, like blue, white.
White. Long sleeve white shirts are accounting shirts.
Well, in what I do know, but
no one else wears white, long sleeve white shirts or blue shirts. By the way, just so you know, just to disprove his theory in a very relevant and immediate manner, I am not an accountant. I am far from an accountant. Just if we needed some real proof, an anecdotal example.
Listen.
Not an accountant.
Why? Listen, I just grew up seeing accountants being in an office all the time with my parents.
I mean, the level of assumption we have there.
Yeah.
Wow. So what happened? So you figure all CSE fellas end up accountants or what? Because they just wear blue, not so?
And on that note, I am not going to go there with you today. I am not going to go there with you today. But I'm so glad to be here. I'm happy that you're joining us, Trinidad and Tobago. We have a very interesting topic that we want to discuss. But before we get into that, just some updates, some recent developments. So obviously, we finally got the steel pan has finally got its geographic international intellectual
geographical indicator.
There we go.
Yes, I know. I
stumbling.
I myself didn't fully understand this point because while the examples given, you may or may not know, only champagne can come from the region of France that is thus named Champagne. Everywhere else it's sparkling wine.
Oh,
it can't technically legally be champagne.
Okay.
But I myself don't necessarily see how a similar thing can happen for TNT because it's not as though we have like a Trinbagonian pan. You know, like the name of the instrument is not Trinbag. You know what I mean?
I understand. But
so it's steel pan somehow because it's not as though we have a region of the country named steel pan, and the reason why we have it is because
right. But I think in other parts of the country they don't call it steel pan, they call it steel drums.
Other parts of the world or the country?
Sorry, other parts of the world they call it steel drums. So if anyone has like those sort of MIDI keyboards or those electric keyboards that has the different voices, different instruments, you can find a steel pan sound. It's just called steel drums. So I think that it's just going to go that direction from here on out. There's that, and then I know you spoke about it very, very briefly. I'm not going to go too much in depth, but I know the Prime Minister said that he's going to get rid of the 3 ships and put the steel pan on the coat of arms. Many people are happy. I'm waiting to see where it goes. And I'm going to leave it there. I'm
indifferent to it, to be honest, because we're so far removed to the initial point. And again, I would like to ask how many people actually thought this was a pressing issue until the Prime Minister said it, and all of a sudden, yes, that's all behind that. Now, on a practical level, I am concerned he is using that as cover to say, look, we need to get rid of our colonial masters and then lump the Privy Council in. That's a whole other topic outside of this.
All right.
But for the purposes of breakthrough, here's a different concern that I might have.
What's that?
It better look good.
Yeah, please.
Right? Because if I look too jokey, heaven help you, right? Living that down. It better look, and when I say good, it doesn't just have to be passable. And knowing governments, right, they will do something that will look very politically correct and passable,
right.
And it very well might look, whether we like it or not, far less official
right.
than what we had before.
Yeah.
Whether you like the 3 ships or not, it looked like a coat of arms that was from us.
Now, what happened?
That looked official.
Yeah, but what happened at the beginning? I don't know if you saw this on your social media, but at the beginning of Steel Pan Month, people were posting their demos of what the coat of arms could look like with a steel pan. So there's literally an image on. So I think he saw that.
Oh, and he's riding the trend.
Yes.
Oh, I did. To be fair, I did not know that.
That came as soon as I think we got the intellectual thing, the geographical indicator. People that has been posted, and that's circulating among the artists and musicians out there.
I'm seeing one. The steel pan is taking up the whole shield.
Yeah, that is very much. It's like a gold steel pan sort of outline of the notes and stuff in the middle of it.
You know, this actually does not look bad, because I'll say this: it looks like the crest of a shield. And if you wanted a shield to, what would be our crest to identify us? Then I could go with this. I could live with it.
So Prime Minister, get in contact with whoever did that and, make that official. And it's shared. Since yesterday, it's recirculating. It's recirculating all of the time. And, social media has some influence. Speaking of some influence as well, but staying within the vein of Trinidad and Tobago, we just want to give out our congratulations to Mr. Etienne Charles. His newest album, Jazz Creole, it was number 6 on Jazz Week. It was number 1 on Jazz Week for 6 weeks straight. That's what I meant to say.
Yes.
Right? And so, I mean, come on. And for those of us who don't know people who are making it out there, who are doing their thing abroad, we've had our guests, we had Andrew Samlal, just the other day, and they're making their mark. And Etienne Charles, fantastic performer.
Let's make it clear, this is not someone who, he's just gone abroad to do foreign things. He's come back, he's done brass and carnival, right? He's still celebrated his local culture, his roots. I went to school with him. I remember him. He was just a year ahead of me, but it was kind of funny to see him as a lower form student trying to tell the upper form student how to play. They're playing the same instrument, trumpet, and it's like, yeah, you this chord, that chord, that chord. Like, he was the more advanced musician. His talent was on another level when compared to a lot of his peers within the school, and I would argue around the country in any instrument, take your pick. And again, it goes back to, here we have an example of someone to look up to. This could have been a hero to inspire. Not the hero, look, I'm saving lives, outing fires with my trumpet, but hero in the sense of, I'm saving lives because I'm showing you a way how to go beyond what would be the typical norm of TNT society. You finish school, maybe, now it's get a university degree, not so much before. Get a job in the bank, get a job in the government, and then have 2.5 kids and retire at some point.
2.5?
Yeah, the dog. Everybody. Okay. I mean, no, I think it's a joke, but statistically speaking, like when you actually average out the families,
it's
you actually for replacement you include fractions, because they average out once you multiply by the total population.
Okay,
like that, right?
Interesting statistics. Yes. Lovely. What a wonderful subject. So glad I didn't have to do that.
Yeah, this is not what we do here at Briefly.
No, it's not.
Obviously, one of us is not an accountant.
And moving swiftly forward. But no, it's good to see. And I mean, on that note, you said he's doing his thing and bringing his culture. The album is called Creole Orchestra.
There you go.
Right? And his albums, they're so great. Next time he's down here, go and he has a performance, buy all of his albums. Please, you won't.
Well, go see the performance, because there's something about a live performance where seeing someone at that level of craft, and I do wonder if we don't have too much of that here in TNT to see it at that level. We have good people, don't get me wrong, but Etienne Charles might actually be legit one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Great. Now, coming back to the point of, social media influence, right? So when social media became a thing, and I'm really going to specify to maybe Facebook and Instagram. When they became a thing, it seemed at the start, it was just like a digital space to communicate, to have fun. People who remember, we used to play Farmville. I don't know if Farmville is still a thing on
Well, they
Facebook.
have similar things.
And you're messaging your cousin who lives abroad, so you're not really writing letters and sending an email. You can just talk to those.
And it replaced email.
It replaced email to a send, because you have that instant messaging. Those of us who remember MSN Messenger, That was a good thing. But now it's turned in, and now people are using it for their business.
Yes.
And to some extent, depending on the business, you're seeing the rewards of it, you're seeing some level of return in it. But I wonder sometimes, and I'm going to throw a clip just now, but I wonder sometimes if we overestimated the power of social media. And there's a clip that I saw on Instagram where a musician and a teacher, she plays in an orchestra and stuff like that, and she really gave some good business advice. Just want to throw that clip to you really quickly.
Growing your music career that no one told me in music school, and it took me quite a bit of time and energy to figure out and experiment on my own, is that most musicians are not finding opportunities through traditional marketing, like cold emails and posting flyers and spamming social media. When you ask them, they are finding most opportunities through word of mouth, which means that on some personal or professional level, they had a pre-existing relationship with someone that referred them or recommended them for that opportunity. And when we get out of school and we try to start finding gigs and finding lesson students and trying to create our own thing and start moving forward into more of a full-time music career, we start with more of the traditional marketing. And even if you're going to go on social media like this and make videos and content, it still has to be about the relationship. If you lead with authentic relationships and this desire to really get to know people and become a part of your community, that is where the real growth happens. And that little mindset shift, that change in how I was approaching communication and outreach, helped me get 43 students in 2.5 months after I relocated across the US. So it's a tiny change, but it makes all the difference, or at least it has for me.
So right there, she's basically speaking about how the relationships are more important. I'm just gonna give a quick backstory, a quick personal story. When the pandemic hit, I was kind of one of the first few to really advertise online music classes, right? And it was on a big platform, big media platform. And there were thousands of likes, a bunch of comments, a bunch of messages as well, right? And when I explained, in explaining my the terms and the conditions and the cost and how long the classes are and whatnot, which I think I did a pretty, decent job at, I really did not get any actual students from that. A lot of these students that I have are referrals. A lot of these students I have are parents talking to parents. This parent trusts this teacher. I would recommend them to you. This person has had a good experience with me as a student. I'm going to recommend this person to you. So essentially, she's kind of saying the same thing. And I'm wondering what your thoughts on that is.
Well, I think it goes beyond that. However, just to add to what you said, we underestimate what word of mouth does, because word of mouth takes, when you see a new movie come out in the cinema, sometimes it's estimated the production budget is equal to the marketing budget. And what the marketing for a movie does is the first week might look okay, but then especially when you see that big drop off in some of those films, it's because the word of mouth did not sustain it. Right? Oh, okay. Not just the reviews, because the reviews could be hit or miss. The audience could say one thing, the critics could say something else, and vice versa. But the word of mouth does not sustain it. People who have seen it will not recommend it and then drop off, right? Okay. And people kind of underestimate, look, at the end of the day, you can market on mass media all you want, but you can't say something in your marketing and be something else. You have to be consistent, right? At the very least, right? Because to some extent, even if people how to put it, initially get knowledge of you by mass media, the experience of some are going to propagate to say, was this good, was this bad, what have you, right? Particularly, depending on the product. If it's something like, I need to trust my children with you, I'm going to be a lot more discerning. Yeah. So when it comes to music lessons for kids, not just for the musical education, but also the responsibility of overseeing the children.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
supervision.
Let's go the next way, because I don't think she was limited to just teaching or things similar to teaching.
For sure. Yes.
She was thinking about work job opportunities in the music space. But I would argue that this is something that has come up. And it's not something, if you're a business student, this would have come up even when I was going to the secondary school. You would have heard things about networking, right? About meeting people, about expanding your network. Now, it's not as though there were classes to say how to do this, But there was something about understanding that you need to put yourself out there, get your name out there, get known. And I think one of the problems is we look at social media and we think, oh, it's this revolutionary piece of technology. And people who were not known before can be known now. There are platforms now for people, podcasts and content creators and so on and so on. Well, the problem with that is, yes, that can happen. But to say that you're going to replace traditional networking with social media, I think is a misconception. Because what happens is, at the end of the day, we think there is a greater connection, but in reality, most of the people who you're friends on with Facebook, you don't speak to on a day-to-day. You're not going to trust with your money, trust with your kids, trust with your investment, etc., right? Trust with your project. And we had this discussion before.
We have, yeah.
Musical, artistic projects, whether film, music, theater, what have you, it's very much based on, can I trust this person to deliver? Because it's very subjective, can they do the job or not? And to some extent, yes, there might be 6 people who could do the job, but once I find one of them, it's not like I'm gonna be, well, I need to make sure that they're not other people and then put you all into the gauntlet to see, no, once I am, I just need to find the best one. And then on top of that, art, projects at that size, it's a collaboration.
Yes.
You also, and it's the same thing in the business world, but to some extent, one could argue maybe more so in art and sports, personality, fitting together,
thing,
right? That's a big thing as well. And referrals. It's similar to when you are going to trust this person with my children for 2 hours. Right? It's not just about his musical ability now, it's his personality. And it's easier for me, because I don't know anything about you, rhetorically speaking, if I was a parent in that position. But the other parent had the experience, and that gives me a little bit more comfort. I don't need to sit in on 5 lessons to make sure I know what's going on and then have a nanny cam that I don't tell you about and do all kind of spy bases. But no, I just get a referral.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean...
And fake Facebook friends does not equal to that.
Exactly. And I mean, well, some parents do want to supervise, but that's a whole different topic. But I want to touch on 2 things. One, the point, we're leaving it alone. The point that you made about the movie, it's interesting because I always wondered, there's so much, for some movies, there's so much hype surrounding it, right? And there's this fuel behind it and everybody. So I feel like sometimes we like the anticipation of the product more than the actual product. So then you go in, the movie drops on everybody, and then after a week it drops off the face of the earth. And no one talks about it anymore. I'm like, and then you compare it to a movie that probably did not have as much hype, but then after a while, it just starts organically growing and growing and growing. So that's an interesting point. The second thing about trusting people, and I think for me, personality is a big thing. People who I work with, their personality is a big thing. I almost want to say more than if you can do the job, but they're kind of on equal footing, because as artists, at least for me, when you step into my project, you're stepping into a sacred space. You're stepping into a very valued space. You're stepping into a space where it's very, very, you can't help but make it personal. You can't help but make it such a space where it's very valued. So if you are coming into this space and you don't, and we're not gelling well, you have the skills, but there's a clashing of personalities, because then you're making it hard for me to work with you, right? There's something to be said about that. It's not just the skills anymore. I think I would have made this point on Talking Point on Friday, actually. We thought education was it. And what I mean by it, we thought education was going to solve was the only thing, was going to solve all of the problems. But then we realized, no, we actually have very skilled people who actually aren't great team workers.
Yeah, team players. And then it's the same thing, art is the same thing in business world or any sort of professional community. If you want to be called up to have the best projects, to go and do the best assignments, right? Maybe there's a new endeavor. Maybe there's an expansion of a business, right? We need a consultant. We need an expert in this field, right? It's going to, in part, be about your networking. It doesn't matter if you have better technical knowledge than the other guy. If no one knows you, and you are just this hermit curmudgeon that doesn't want to be known, then people won't ask you, because part of it is it doesn't matter that you are 0.5% better or 5% or even 50% better. If I could work with this person and he could get my project till the end, your improvement that you offer to me is theoretical, right? And if you yourself are not helping make yourself available, make yourself a team player, so not just that you're known, but also that your references are good, etc., etc. Like, then the benefit that you could provide over the other guy is technically theoretical. And depending, if he is good enough, then it doesn't matter how much better you are. Why am I going to go through all these extra hoops when you might not work out? And that's the thing. I think it's interesting. Business will use the term project. The art will use the term project. At the end of the day, it is sacred, because when projects fail, they take down a lot of people with them. They set a lot of careers back in any industry. And that's why you don't necessarily want to roll the dice on people who are not necessarily going to be team players and are going to undermine the program. And very often, one of the reasons why a lot of businesses fail is not because of any inherent systemic flaw, but rather in one moment of time, somebody upset the apple cart some way, somehow, and it's done.
Well, let me ask you a question then, because you use the word known. Can you be word of mouth known without being media known?
Yeah.
Yeah? Because
there will be times when the best kept secret within the industry. What does the industry think? Who does the industry point to that the media and the public doesn't point to? You know, so like in music, I'm sure at least in the past, there would have been a point in time when the Grammys, a lot of the musicians would have loved for a lot of these lesser known people to get Grammys, right? Now, it might be way too political, but you know, same thing with film. Like when they say this director is an actor's director, or this actor is an actor's actor, because they appreciate the things behind the scenes that makes the job easier, right? Whereas to most people, it's who's the star in front of the scenes.
It's very interesting. And to that point, for a project, let's take, for instance, a concert. A concert has so many moving parts. Excuse me, and depending on the type of concert, let's say it's a choir, let's say they're musicians, that means you're going to have a tech crew, sound people, lighting people, the people who run tech, who move sets on and off the stage, the people who do the uniforms or the costume, you know, the
makeup artists.
The makeup artists, all of those things.
Then the cast. If you have a choir and musicians,
and then you have the cast.
That's a big cast by default.
And then if somebody, or maybe one or two people, is making the process a little bit more difficult than it needs to be, but then in that moment, you're kind of being selfish, because then you're taking everybody down with you in a sense.
What a lot of people don't understand, because we've been a part of relatively big productions and this number of people involved. All it takes at certain key points is for one person to not be, you know, on board with, we need to get this thing done now, and they're holding up the show for whatever reason. And you have cast and crew of 100 to 200 people just wasting a couple hours. And in a project like that, you cannot have 200 people wasting a couple hours.
Correct. I want to talk about that for a little bit. So when you are in tech rehearsal or dress rehearsal mode, and you are in the space for that week or the few days before the weekend of the show, the goal is to get the job done. Nothing more, nothing less. The goal is to absolutely get the job done. And if leadership is guiding the production a certain way, you kind of have to respect it. If you'd like to raise opinions and stuff like that, you can do that after the rehearsal is done, right? But if there's an emergency of sorts, and something needs to be dealt with now, obviously people know how to deal with these things, hopefully, and you're able to do them in a particular way where it is you know, you deal with what needs to be dealt with. But when you come and there's a lot of confusion and stuff like that, and you try to bring a lot of confusion with you, it just sets everything back. So at the end of the day, just try to focus on the job. Try to focus on the job at all times. Now, we have people in Trinidad and Tobago who are well known. They may not necessarily have a social media presence, but they're well known.
Yes.
And it's because of the good work that they've done.
Yes.
It's because of the good projects that they do and things like that.
Because even if the public doesn't know them, say say you wanted someone like Etienne Charles to be your musical director for a project, and he said, well, I'm in New Orleans, I can't do it, right?
Exactly.
Obviously, the next thing you do, or you may ask, maybe you won't ask him because you're worried it might be pretentious, but you ask him, well, is there anyone you could recommend that might be able to do the job, maybe not as well as you, but close to?
Yeah.
And he would know people, and of course now it's his reputation, so he's not going to necessarily recommend people willy-nilly. Sometimes somebody makes the mistake of doing that, but that's not the norm.
Yeah.
And that's where you don't want to be the diva, like the whole thing about the diva. Listen, you have to be the best in the world to be a diva, right? And when I say the best in the world, I mean like head and shoulders above. And even then, there might be people who's like, I don't care. I would never work with that person again.
Yeah.
So even then, with that exception, you still have to put your best foot forward to be a team player. If you want, when the time comes, I need a name, whatever the name is for. You want your name called. You want to at least have the opportunity, because otherwise you would have never even heard of this opportunity, because they're going direct one by one. And you want to give yourself the best chance to get your name thrown in the hat.
Exactly. But here's what I would say in terms of how to navigate social media. Because with what we do as artists, it's not like you have a store and you're selling items, and you can post a picture of the item and you can simply say this is the cost of the item, and people are free to purchase or not, right? It's a little bit more complex than that. So look at social media, at least this is what I've seen, my mind can change as time goes by. But look at it as an expression of what you do. Don't, and manage your expectations with what you put on it, right? Just because you put the one song does not mean that people are automatically going to buy it on iTunes, right? Just because you put that one clip doesn't mean that that one clip of you dancing doesn't mean that Lion King is going to call you and offer you a gig. Some of those situations do happen very rarely, but they do. But put yourself out there with a sense of with an authentic sense of self, and an authentic sense of what your craft is. And then people will know, people will recognize the genuinity, people will recognize the authenticity. And as long as you manage your expectations, I think then you should be okay. Yeah.
That's the other thing. I understand you don't want to sell yourself short, but similar to the movies, if the substance of the product isn't there by the second week, you know, if you are not giving a true representation of yourself, if you're over representing yourself on social media, eventually people will realize. They'll sniff it out, right? And they will move on.
Yes. So, and on that note, we're going to take a quick break. You're going to see some ads, of course, because this is media, because we just spoke about social media.
Yeah, we also do need to do ads.
You need to.